What's up, everyone? This is Eric Devendorf, your host of the Scores Table podcast. For episode 2, we'll have one of my favorite guys on, University of Washington head coach Mike Hopkins. We're going to talk about everything from his transition to Syracuse, his relationship with Coach B, and much more. Let's get to it. All right, Hop, appreciate you coming on the Scores Table.
I love it.
We're gonna hop right into it. No pun intended.
I like it.
All right, so came to Cuse in 1989, played at Cuse till 1993, played with guys like DC, Lawrence Moe, and John Wallace. Yeah. Just tell me what it was like playing at Syracuse and then being coached by Coach Boeheim.
Well, playing at Syracuse, like a lot of people have dreams of playing in the NBA. My dream was to play at Syracuse. Yeah. As a kid, it was Pearl Washington, Syracuse, Georgetown. I felt the rivalry in 7th grade, watching the games in the Carrier Dome, Dick Vitale doing the games, the CBS Sunday. It was like the Cuse. And being able to go on campus, I even can recall going up with my family in the first year with the drop-off. And it's like, you walk into the gym, it's Derek Coleman, Sherman Douglas, these guys that you idolized. Those were my Michael Jordans and Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, and my mom's sitting there like, let me take some pictures. And I'm like, God, Mom, you're embarrassing me. Now they're like my greatest cherished items. But for the most part, it was my dream to play at Syracuse. It was playing with so many great players, being part of a tradition that is second to none in the country. The fan base was just incredible. I had so many great experiences, teams, and playing for Coach Boeheim. I mean, you got one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest. You can argue that he is the greatest. You give him his games back that they took. You're talking about, I don't even know if it would be 1,100 games, already break 1,000, but a guy that is just one of the greatest coaches of all time. So it was a great journey for me and something that I'll never forget.
Give me a Coach Boeheim story. Something that maybe sticks out in your mind.
I can give you a Coach Boeheim. Hopper, I wear my glasses. I got readers now, and I could do it, but I don't have them. Well, God, what's a great story? I remember, I tell this often, just funny because our practices were so competitive for so many years. But I remember being in practice, and Derek Coleman had one of those days where he was just miserable. It was one of those days, and he was the tough guy, and just unbelievable. I remember, I was on the scout team, and you're running like a floppy, like 2 or 3 play, and I'm going down, and DC is like, he just wants to hit me. He just wants to hit people that day. Yeah. And so I'm coming across, and he's just laying wood on me every single time. And it's almost to the point where I almost want to run in the Carrier Dome behind the basket to the other side. And I finally go again, and it's just wood on me. And Coach blows the whistle, and he's like, Derek, that's crazy. You're hitting them, that's awful, just play the right way. And, he said something like, you're lucky I'm not out there. And Derek looks at him and he goes, well, come on out here then. And it was like these competitors, Coach Boeheim is fierce competitor. Derek Coleman, fierce competitor. But, so many great moments of watching Coach's genius and his, standard of excellence that he has on a day-to-day basis. So many stories. Can't really choose one.
Right. Favorite game that you played in at the Cuse?
Oh, my goodness. You know what? There's 2. Eric, number 1, people said I'd never play there. And I told you my dream was to play there at Syracuse. And I remember my redshirt freshman year, I hadn't played in 8 of 10 games. And we're playing Georgetown in the Big East Championship. It was the 3 technical game with John Thompson. Mm-hmm. And, they're playing zone and no one can shoot. And I don't even know if I was taped. He's like, Hopkins. And I get to the front of the bench and he's like, now listen, they're playing off you. If you get an open shot, stick it, knock it down. Like literally, I think it was the only time in my life he ever told me to shoot. And I came in And I played, and I hit a shot. It wasn't a three. It was inside the line, and I made 2 foul shots, but I had played 18 minutes in a Big East championship game, the game that I dreamt of playing in, and impacting and be a part of it, and seeing the crowd, and it's, seeing, feeling the energy as a player on the court.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
always remember that as probably the greatest moment, because it's like, gosh, I played in that game that I dreamt of.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like that energy from the Cuse crowd when you hit a shot, or when a big moment happens in a game. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's there's and then there's so many moments, so many, I call them brain tattoos. Something that you just see, and they stick in there. But I'll always remember that game because it was validated, because people told me I'd never play, and here I was as a redshirt freshman, wasn't playing, but got a chance to play in the biggest game on the biggest stage.
All right, absolutely. Okay, so after Cuse, you go play CBA overseas for a little bit, then you come back to Cuse and start your coaching career in '95. What or who influenced you to come back, and how was that transition like? Going from playing, into coaching.
Well, obviously, Bernie Fine was a big role model of mine, the guy who had coached me, and Timmy O'Toole. I always talk about Timmy, a guy who I stayed in contact with for so many years and kind of pushed me through. And I remember getting a call from Timmy, and he was basically saying, "Hey, Hop, listen, I might be going to another school, which was Duke, and I think you'd be a great coach. And I just want to reach out to you to say if you'd have any interest, because if I do decide to do this, I don't know if I'm going to, but if I decide to do it, I'd love to recommend you to Coach Boeheim, because I think it would be great." And it's funny how things work out and how things happen. But I called Coach and I said, "Hey, listen, if Timmy does decide to leave, I'd love to come back as, on the staff somehow, some way. If it was a GA, if it was the third assistant at the time was making $16,000, it wasn't a recruiting position. It wasn't that position." And I talked to Coach, and Timmy left, and in great Coach Boeheim fashion, he's like, "Well, come back and work at camp." So I came back and worked camp, and we had a conversation one day, and it was like the last week of camp, and we were up at Flint Hall, and he's like, "You all set? Everything all set?" And I'm like, "All set? Like, what do you mean?" Like, he's like, "Well, you're coming, right? You're gonna coach." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I would love it." And he gave me the opportunity, and the rest is history. Never forget that moment. Never forget the opportunity. And that's the one thing about Coach: very loyal to the bone for his players, his staff, and always take care as a family. So it was a huge opportunity and something I always cherish.
Was it easy for you making that transition, just going into coaching? Is it something that you thought you always wanted to do while you were playing?
You know what, Eric? I was really lucky. I never thought I'd coach. I never did. I never sat there and said one day I want to coach. I was going to work for my father after I got done playing, and I had been fired so many times as a player, and I was going to work for my dad, and my dad basically said, he had a bad year financially with his business, and he had laid off a couple employees, and he didn't think it was right to hire me because, it just wasn't the right time to do it after he just let people go. So I just started giving individual lessons, just like you did, just like a lot of coaches have done. You just love coaching. You love giving back.
Absolutely.
I see all the stuff that you've been doing. It's like, it's just incredible. And it's not the level, it's the feeling of helping somebody get better. It's the feeling of helping somebody improve their self-esteem, their talent. It's so much bigger than just the basketball piece. And I had so many great coaches from Little League Baseball. My Little League Baseball coach was Bob Johnson. He was the Super 12 quarterback coach. Rob Johnson, who played for the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. Brett Johnson was a great quarterback. He's won national championship at Mission Viejo. My high school coach is a legend, Gary McKnight. I got to play for Jim Boeheim, who was a legend. I got to work for Coach K at the Olympics, like the greatest coaches of all time. And Coach Gergerich, who had taught me so much about just the daily grind and that connection with player and player development. And it was like, gosh, all those guys helped me, a guy that was never supposed to even come close to being at that level. And they did everything they could to help me get to that level. And that's what I tried to do, is how they taught me. I just wanted to give that to somebody else. And then to see the way that they've caught it and embraced it and sucked it up, it was kind of like this power that was just incredible to feel.
Yeah.
It was like, I remember this kid, his name was Dave Janzik, and his dad was an actual real rocket scientist. And the guy was the awkward kid. He had like this, he was a white kid, but he had the curly hair, like the big curly hair, and he was very nerdy.
Yeah.
And he was awful. And the dad asked me to give him lessons. And I remember, this is true. If I'm lying, I'm not. And I had him literally keep the ball right here. And I had him outside the paint, and I taught him step with your left, right hand layup. One step, layup. Kick your knee up to get the power. Left hand. And literally, before Mike and that, ball handling. And the kid was so much taller than everybody. So the next thing you know, he's going down in these games. Because if he could get the rebound, if he made a layup, he would dominate.
Right.
So the kid starts getting like 30 points and stuff like that. His confidence starts shooting through the moon. The dad calls me, and he's like, Mike, what have you done to my son? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, gosh, the kid is a 4.0 student. All he wants to do is go outside and work on his game. And I always remember that as the ultimate compliment. And I was addicted to the feeling of helping somebody. And it wasn't necessarily his basketball. His basketball impacted his self-esteem. It impacted his confidence in class. It impacted how he interacted with other people. And so, that day it was kind of like, this is what I'm going to do. And I, they tell you that if you find something that you love, you never work a day in your life. I'm in it now 20 something years, and I've never worked a day in my life.
I mean, you kind of hit it on the head. When you're able to show somebody something, and then it clicks in their head and they get it, and then you see them in like their response and how happy they are, it makes you feel like, oh man, that's pretty awesome. So now you continue to keep doing that to more and more people. And I know, you Hop, like, I mean, the energy and the motivation, the inspiration that you not only gave to me, but just everybody. I mean, I've never been around a person or a coach, like you, to where,
thank you, E.
You make somebody want to run through a brick wall. You know what I mean? And everyone who knows you, they understand, what I'm saying. So
appreciate it. Great compliment coming from you. Trust me.
No, absolutely. So we'll fast forward a little bit. You kind of touched on, connecting with the players. And you were, one of the greatest, being at Cuse, at your time at Cuse, you were one of the nation's top recruiters. How was, what was important to you, on the recruiting scene, and what made you successful, being a top-notch recruiter?
Well, what the bottom line is, to be a really good recruiter, you got to have a lot to sell.
Yeah.
And, when you take somebody through the Carrier Dome, driving up to it, it's like the first time I went to New York City, and you're driving down and you're like looking out the window, like you're looking at the top of the building. He's like, damn, that's the Empire State Building. And you're doing it. You've seen it on TV, and you're taking these kids on campus, and they see this just incredible building. And then, like anything, you're shutting those doors, and you're hearing the like the power of the air. And you go through that first door, you open it, almost breaks your arm off. And then you go to the next one, and you walk through, and you just see this. I always said it was like in the movie when you see the Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
It's not the most beautiful, but it is, if you're a basketball person you've seen on TV. And you just see this huge thing, and there's a feeling to it. And so, you had an incredible place to sell. You had an incredible league to sell. And then you had one of the greatest coaches of all time. So in reality, easy sell. And in tradition and pros and all those other things. But on the flip side, you got to love people. You got to want to be around people, because in anything that you do, you just got to love what you do. And, on those interactions, when you love what you do and you love a place, it's not a fake sell. It's a real from the heart. And when you sell from the heart, when you lead from the heart, usually, even if you lose somebody that might be rated high, you usually get who you're supposed to get, because values align. And, kids spell love Time. It's about the time that you put in. And I remember it's outworking people. It's not taking those other three things for granted. The Carrier Dome and Coach Boeheim and the incredible school and the incredible league, but the connection to people and outworking people. And that's what I got as a player, and that's what I got from my mom and dad. You see it every day. So, simple formula.
Is there a crazy recruiting story you have, or is there a guy that you were recruiting and he got away and you're like, I needed that one. I was working on him. So,
I wasn't, a big thing for me, I always said Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
For so many years, there were so many great players that came out of upstate New York. And so it was like, but then there was a lot of guys that got away. But take care of the home base. And that's where we got into Niagara Falls with, Johnny and Paul, and obviously our strength in Detroit. And Rob Murphy was an incredible recruiter and strong in certain areas. And, it's a team effort. People want to be around people that not only where you can thrive as a place and this and that, but they also want to get better. And I thought we really focused on getting guys better. And but I thought the focus of where we had to be strong, we did a really good job. Philadelphia, New England, New York, upstate New York, Detroit, with Dave Bing, Derek Coleman, Todd Bergen, so many great players. And not only just building those relationships, but then maintaining those relationships. And, it's just kind of how life works, right? You have a good experience somewhere and you treat people right, they usually want to come back again. And
yeah, James Theus, another Detroit guy.
James Theus was another Detroit. That's exactly. Well, so many great players, right?
Yeah.
So many great players.
No, absolutely. So let's talk about 2003, the national championship year. Coaching Melo and GMAC, and like before the season, was there anything special that you as a coaching staff saw that might have, led you to think that you guys had a chance to win the championship that year?
Well, I will tell you this. I remember Troy Weaver. There's so many stories, but I remember I was recruiting a kid named Matt Walsh who went to Florida. He was McDonald's All-American. He was a great guard.
Tough.
He was from Philadelphia. We'd been strong in Philly. He was really close with Akeem Warwick. We're recruiting him really hard. And, Troy went to go with Coach to go see, this guy named Carmelo Anthony, and they talked about him. And then, Weave came up to me and says, Hop, I want you to go see Melo. So we go up to Slam Dunk to the beach, and we fly in, and we're talking about Matty Walsh. We're talking about recruiting, and he goes, true story. He goes, Hop, let me tell you something. He goes, Carmelo Anthony, Matt Walsh. And I'm like, get out of here. There's no way. You're not talking. And we went into the gym, and they were playing against Curtis Sumter, Jason Frazier, two of the top, players.
Yeah.
And Melo's in layup lines, and he's got his headband around his neck, and he's got the braids. And I don't know it, but I've seen four guys like that, like Allen Iverson the first time I saw him in college. But this was the first experience of seeing a guy in a layup line and going, ooh. And you didn't even see him shake a shot. There's something about there's, it's like
vibe, the whole
the
vibe.
rays of God coming down, like the way, he's doing this in layup line. You're like, holy, holy, holy Lord, God of power. You're in church, and you're in a service. And I remember sitting next to Weave going, oh my God, he dropped like 38 and threes and twos and tough and pass and compete and smiling. It was like watching Ken Griffey Jr. as a young kid hitting baseballs, baseball hat on backwards, just a kid having fun. It's so much better than everybody. And so, that's what you knew you had. And I had seen GMAC, and boy, I'd never seen anybody like GMAC. Like GMAC was, oof. I saw him get, 40 and a half. I've seen him, he just had it. Competitive, same thing like the Melo factor, like the competitive spirit, all about winning. Could give you 40 in a minute. And so you knew you had talent. We were just young. And I remember there was an early workout. I didn't go to watch. They were playing pickup, and Weave called, and If anybody know, Weave, he'd be like, hitting, and he starts talking, and he goes, Hoppy. He called me Hoppy. He's like, Hoppy, we're gonna be pretty good. And you got Hakeem and Josh Pace and Billy Edelin, and you got these competitors and toughness and length and like this talent. And I will tell you, we were 12-0. No, we lost to Memphis in the first game, and then we ran off 12 straight, and then we lost at Rutgers on a last-second shot by Herbie.
On a bank shot
by Herbie Lamazana.
Yeah.
But the time when you were good is we played a non-conference game at Michigan State, and they had 7 days to prepare. And we went to Michigan State, which is a hard place to win. And when you give a Tom Izzo team time to prepare, and get ready for a game, and the place was crazy, and we won.
I was there.
Yeah, and that's when you started knowing, these guys are pretty real, and they just kept going. And when you get into the NCAA tournament, there's so many different factors. You obviously got to be good. You got to be a little bit lucky. And when we're down to 22 points, Oklahoma State or whatever it was, and he puts in Jeremy McNeil, and he looks like you got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the background pressing and blocking shots. And, Jerry and Melo, I think, go scoreless in the first half of the game. It just, and the crazy thing about that team, you couldn't take one guy. You couldn't take Josh Pace off the team. You couldn't take anybody off the team and still have won it. It took everybody. Josh Pace against Auburn having 16 points off the bench in the first. Billy Edelin against Manhattan off the bench. Everybody mattered. And so that's one thing I'll always remember about that team. Just incredible talent, but incredible chemistry that was built. And you got Jim Boeheim at the helm. I mean, the guy he's a freak of nature when it comes to coaching. He's got obviously the knowledge, but incredible gut and conviction, and just led those guys, to an unbelievable season.
And that Michigan State game, like I said, I was at the game, and that was the game that made me decommit for Michigan State. And Chris Hill had 10 threes that game.
He had 10 threes. They were going in the high post and out, and my man was hitting them from NBA. You're exactly right. What a great memory.
Yeah, that was.
That's what I'm saying. They played good and had the week to prepare, and we beat them.
Absolutely.
And you know what I remember in that game, and this is where the Melo factor, he wasn't just a great player. He was an incredible teammate and a winner. It wasn't about him. I remember him coming down on a play, hack, go to Hakeem, kill him, Hakeem. It was go to hack, 54 to hack, or whatever we were running.
Yeah,
it was all about, yeah. And that's what, when you start saying that, you're pretty damn good.
No, absolutely. All right, well, here's another unbelievable game you were a part of, 6-0T. In your mind, is that the greatest college basketball game of all time? I mean,
it was the most exhausting.
Yeah. Tell me about it a little bit.
And the thing that made it so special for just every Cuse fan was it was against Connecticut. Two legendary. It was Hagler, Hearns. From a coaching perspective, Jim Calhoun, Jim Boeheim, you had two programs. You had great players. And I think the greatest picture in Syracuse history is you on the table. There's no other greater picture. Do you know what it reminds me of? I hate to say this. This is, it's the picture of the soldiers planting the American flag. I forget which war. And it's everybody on top of each other.
Yeah.
And your picture and I got to give this, you're like this, and it's all your teammates hold you, and it didn't even count.
It didn't count.
And it didn't count, but it's the greatest shot. And I always, when I see it, I can feel the motion of the game again. But just a heavyweight fight. And for us not to be able to take the lead at any part of the 6 overtimes until the last one just showed an incredible amount of resiliency from our program. And those types of things are they're brain tattoos. They're incredible moments.
Well, I tell everyone too, because they're like, oh, are you upset the shot didn't count? I'm like, no, because if the shot didn't count, then we wouldn't be talking about the game right now. And it was the kind of setup for the drama. And like you said, Syracuse, UConn, Calhoun, Boeheim, Big East tournament, Madison Square Garden, ESPN, like everything was kind of like the stage was already set up. So, the drama unfolding like that to 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 OTs.
I would love to know what the ratings were for that game, because do you know how many people have told me, like people that are huge basketball fans, like I watched that game. I stayed up until this. And then obviously I'm on the West Coast now and people watch that game. And the amount of people in that game, it was just an incredible moment for our program too.
No, absolutely. Okay, so you touched on it a little bit earlier. The NCAA taking away coach's 101 wins. He gets suspended, and then you get into the head coaching position. What was that like, being thrown into that position, unexpectedly and just having to take over?
You know what? It was probably the greatest learning experience of my life. The one thing now being a head coach going on my 4th season is, you can prepare all you want, but until you're there, it's just a different animal. There's so many different dynamics. And sometimes you have to experience something to get a better understanding of it. And so I was able to, very few people get an opportunity like that to kind of feel it. Like it would be like going, you're a good surfer and they take you, and you got to go surf pipeline and there's 20-foot waves today. You might wipe out a couple times, but you eventually learn, because you're a good surfer, how to surf the wave. And I just felt like it was an incredible experience at the highest level. And what you really realize is in a lot of these games, like you have leads and you have this and that, and there's the momentum pieces, and then you have just game situations, and then there's motivation of players when they're down or up. I remember we were playing at Miami and we're up early in the half, and you're playing, and next thing you know, Mike Benajay's cramping, and you're going through it, and you're trying to talk him through it. Like there's all these different factors, but I couldn't tell you enough, Eric, how much I learned. And great learning experience. Wish I would have done better, especially for Cuse. But when you go through those tough times, we were able to come back. Coach came back. I learned a lot about it. And we ended up taking the team, and Coach got him back on track, and we went to the Final Four. And so sometimes, how you handle adversity is really, what I've learned, especially with our team, and you talk about this year with COVID, it's all about, how do you respond? How do you respond? And if you have the mindset, like, I got to learn from it, I got to move forward, and I got to get better, great. If you fight it, like, wow, this happened or this happened, you don't get it. It's all about learning, moving forward, and being relentless on your approach. And it all ended up like smelling roses, I can tell you that.
Right. I tell kids too, you need adversity, right? I mean, you need that. If you don't go through anything in life, then it's just going to be like, it's nothing, right? You got to be able to learn, make mistakes. Okay, I got to do it this way. And when you, like you said, when you're thrown into the sharks, you got to go, you got to adapt quickly. And
you got to adapt quickly.
That helps you going forward. Obviously now and all the success you're having. So for sure. So 2017, you become head coach at University of Washington. When did that come a possibility of you thinking that you were going to go to Washington? And where were you when you found out that you got the job?
You know what? I had, I have an agent, and so you go through the process, but you also go through, I'd been in many interviews, and because I was slated to take over at Syracuse, you had, multiple interviews. I had been offered jobs. I had not gotten jobs, but I'd always learned through that process. And a big thing for me was always about who are you going to work for? Like, any job is great if you love who you work for. It doesn't matter if it's a mid-major, low major, it's who you work with. Who are you working for? That's my philosophy. You can have a great job, work for a bad boss, or you don't like him, or you don't get along with him. It's a bad job.
Yeah.
And so, that's something that I was looking for. And, when the opportunity arose and I got a call and it was late, You know, and I had an opportunity to talk to Jen Cohen, the AD. I just had it. I don't know. You know, you kind of, you know, when you meet your wife or, you know, like that's like, there's an attraction of, God, we have the same values. And she, you know, she was very similar to my situation. She was an assistant AD for 18 years and got the opportunity. There was just so many similarities, and, you know, wanted, you know, someone that she could work with, and this is her vision, this is my vision, and they aligned. And for me, there was the decision of, you know, staying and protecting something that meant so much to me and so much to the people that I care about, yourself. And you talk about Derek and those guys. And then you go back to, you know, do I want to create my own legacy? And I think the one thing going through the 9 games and coaching that, you know, there's always that, you know, can he do it? Can he not do it? And I needed to know from me that I could do it at any level. And so it was awesome. And, you know, like I said, those 9 games taught me a lot, put me in perspective. And you know, I didn't want to do anything more that everybody was telling, oh, you're an idiot, you should never leave there, you know? And you got to have courage sometimes and say, you know what? The only way you're going to learn is when you go out there like I did. And I really felt like I was alive again. You know, it was like sink or swim.
Yeah.
You know, it's a scary feeling, but can I tell you something? Whew. Talk about jumping in ice cold water at the beginning of the morning. Like, whoa, let's go. Like, where are we going? Yeah, and that's how I felt. I hate to say it, but that's how I felt. I felt like it was alive again. I was sleepless. I was working. I was grinding. And there's so much just incredible feel when you're doing that. Incredible energy, incredible life. And so, you know, just an incredible experience. And so when did I make the decision? It was like literally, you know, and I had cold feet. I was literally going, is this the right thing? And then your mind straight plays tricks on you, and you just go back to all the conversations. And I didn't tell anybody. It was me, my wife, my agent, the athletic director, and I didn't want anybody to know. And, you know, I tell people the story. I had actually signed the contract the night before the game.
Mississippi, was it Ole Miss?
Yeah.
I
had signed the contract. I had made the decision, and I didn't want to be swayed. I didn't want to be talked out of. I didn't want to be anything. I just wanted to go with what my heart was saying. And so you know, what people don't know is I was actually going to that game and possibly thinking this is my last game at Syracuse. And so it was really emotional. I remember even in the game, I had to walk out of the side, and GMAC's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. You know, but I was like this, you know, your life, you know, Syracuse was my life. And so it was all incredible stuff, learned so much, and an incredible journey.
What was like, I mean, obviously it's hard telling Coach Boeheim, you know, what was that like having, I mean, you know,
you know what, Eric, it wasn't hard at all.
Okay.
Because I knew it was in my heart. It was because I know when I told him, he was so excited for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, and that's what's cool about this whole thing is like, I know he watches every game. And I know he's proud.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all that you can hope for, right? Especially, you know, when it's like you going to your dad and you know, you want his, you know, reassurance that you're making that right decision, right?
Yeah. And you know what, sometimes it's like even raising children now, it's like, you know, you might think that you know what's best for them, but something else is in their heart. And you know,
that's deep. That's deep.
And so it's at the end of the day, it's been an incredible journey, incredible experience. I always tell people all the time, like with Syracuse, like Syracuse raised me. So many people stay in touch. They watch the games. They wear Washington gear, you know, because they know they raised me and they put me here. So it's been awesome. It's going to be awesome. And, you know, I've never shared that with anybody. So I shared it with you.
I appreciate that. You're my guy. You're my guy. I mean, your first few years at Washington, you're 2-time coach of the year. You guys win a Pac-12 championship. You know, what is the best part of coaching there at Washington?
I like I told you before, I have an incredible boss.
Okay.
Jen Cohen is supportive, visionary. It gives me everything I need to be great, from staff to resources to whatnot. Seattle's an incredible city. We have a mentoring program right now with some of the greatest leaders in the world. We have Amazon, obviously, Starbucks, Costco, Microsoft right in our backyard. Some of our biggest boosters and such are there. And so we've been able to connect them with our players. We have an amazing home court. The one thing that was really interesting is because I was in Syracuse for so long, you see the love of, the Syracuse, orange everywhere. You go to, if you're in Rutgers or in New Jersey, it's Syracuse still. You go to, it's incredible. And here, I remember getting off, did the plane to the press conference. I remember the first week I'm going into like a Whole Foods. And so they'll say, "Go Dogs." And they'll be like, I'm like, what? And they're like, "Go Dogs." And I'm like this, and people all over, "Go Dogs." And then you start seeing, like in Syracuse here, and we're obviously in both parts of the country, everything's purple and gold. And so incredible following. 70% of all alum live within a 9.5-mile radius of the school.
Wow.
Well, like Seattle's like, 4 miles from my office. I drive on there. I'm here. I go to Bellevue, where you have Bill Gates and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. It's like right over the bridge, and you get mountains, and you got water, and you got suburban, you got city, you've got the Sonics are gone. So, but they have a huge basketball following still because they love their sports. You got the Seahawks. You got it's a great sports town. And they've embraced me, and that's, like anything, it's when you're in a community, like when we were at Syracuse, and you're at Syracuse now, and you're doing fundraisers, and you're helping people, and they're helping you, and it's just this connection. That's what we're building here, and they've embraced me. They've been great, and it's been another home, which has been incredible.
I mean, you're the best guy to do it. I mean, if you're talking about building relationships and network and building connections, I want you on my team all day. All day.
Thank you.
You've had a lot of your successes. I mean, you've dealt with your ups and downs in your first 3 years, at Washington. Tell me some of the challenges now of being a head coach. Different from obviously being an assistant, but now since you've been in that role for some time, what are those challenges like?
I think just like I did when I talked about the 9 games, and just what I used to do as a player is, you evaluate every year and you figure out ways to get better. And last year we had just a really talented team. We were as good as you could possibly be, and we lost our point guard. And we went from we just went here and 13-3 with them, and then 4-13 without them. And it's just interesting. And so what you realize is everything matters. You learn to lead better. The greatest thing I think with Coach Boeheim, and after doing this for 3 years, is just it's amazing. They should have a freaking statue out front already, and it shouldn't be like life size. It should be like damn King Kong. The reality of it is the key to this thing is anybody can win 2, 3, 4 years and have their you have a good album and you got a good song.
Right.
The thing that everybody's searching for is sustainability, sustained excellence. And, that's what I'm on the journey to find and do and build. And that's a journey of learning how to lead better, recruit better, teach better, fundraise better in every area that you do, and build relationships better, be a better dad, husband, whatever that may be. Just on that journey. But the sustainability, the sustained excellence is what it's all about. And that's when you become a program that people are envious of and that people watch and want to be a part of.
I mean, how hard is that nowadays just to have that sustainability? You don't see it at all, right? I mean,
it's exceptionally hard. It really is. And, it's, the biggest thing is surround yourself with great people. I've always believed in that. Told you why I came to University of Washington. Now it's, as a leader, it's getting the best people. And the one thing I will tell you, the difference between assistant and head coach, and what I've dealt with is you're recruiting most of these guys with other assistant coaches, and you're doing it. But then you've got to dish out the minutes. And when you're dishing out the minutes, it's sometimes kids gauge how much you love them by how many minutes you play them, and it's completely different. And that's just the newer generation. But it's kids are changing, but you've got to be able to change. You've got to be able to adapt. You've got to be able to listen. You got to be able to learn and get better. And I felt like even last year, it's really helped me have a different perspective as I move forward in this business.
Do you ever talk to coach, during the season, talk about the zone or, anything like that? Something that maybe you took from him that you kind of try to keep with you?
I've taken, you know what, E, I've taken so many things from coach. Obviously you just try to put your own spin on it because every team is different. And when I came in our first year, we're down there, I never thought we'd play the zone. We were trying to press. We were studying West Virginia stuff. We were playing there. We were doing a lot. And then, with our team and getting them to buy in, are they going to buy into it or are they not? And they did. And, we led our league in defense 2 years in a row. But it's one of those things where I was with coach so long. It was like we were married for 20 something years that, we don't talk that much. Maybe once or twice in a year, but like I said, I know he watches the games. If I ever had a question and asked him, he'd be there for me, and I know I'd be there for him.
No question. That's what people got to know. Like with coach, he might not say a lot, but if you need something, he gonna make sure he get it done for you.
He'll be there, and I know he watches every game. He's one of those guys that's watching every game, and I know he's smiling and proud.
Okay, we're gonna look.
He's yelling at our players when we lose. He's probably like, "What the hell are you doing? What are you?"
That's not the right way to work.
No, he wants to call me and tell me, you shouldn't be playing him.
Right, exactly. Okay, we'll have a little fun with this one right here, okay? Describe these players in a few words. First guy, your favorite guy, Paul Harris, and give me a good story because you got 1,900 of them.
God, is it R-rated, G-rated? What do you got?
Paul's a great guy, by the way. Paul's an unbelievable person.
I love the Dugga man. Well, put it this way, probably, a guy that I really, in terms of recruiting and getting to know, probably the most, interesting player that I've ever coached. A kid who's got the heart the size of Niagara Falls, where he came from, but literally just an incredible player. I've watched him since he was in the 8th, 9th, 10th grade and watching him develop. But I would just say toughness. He was one of the toughest players. Defensive toughness, probably the best defensive toughness players I've ever been around.
Yeah, Johnny Flynn.
Electric. That 6 overtime game with you and him, he could go get a bucket whenever he wanted to. When he started to believe that he was elite, there was no stopping him. He had legs like a Brazilian soccer player, and he could jump out of the gym.
Yeah, he did. Deion Waiters.
Oh my gosh. As talented as we've ever had, he had to buy in. Probably the greatest success story from a guy that was close to leaving, that stayed, that bought in to coming off the bench. So he had to put his ego aside, and to see him hug the trophy when we won the Big East championship, and he was in the locker room, and he said to me, "Hop, you can never say I'm not a winner anymore." Because I used to say, "What have you done? What have you won?"
Yeah.
You got to prove that you won. And he bought in, and it was just, that was an incredible year because we had so much talent. That was an incredible year. But he is arguably the most talented guy. In the 9th grade elite camp, John Walls comes over to me and says, "Man, I just saw this kid Waiters over there. We got a commitment from him in the 9th grade." He's like, "Oh my gosh, he's nice." Like he was doing it early.
A dog already. Dog. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can be talented, but are you a dog though?
He is a DAWG.
4th pick off the bench.
Yes.
Come on, man. This guy right here is one of your favorite. Eric Devendorf. Give me a good story.
I'll tell you, it's interesting. You remember, I don't know if you remember when we used to work on start, stop, and creating space, and we were at Manley Fieldhouse, and we'd have the big, the pad, and you're running off. Good. I always remember we were playing in New York City. It was the first tournament. You weren't starting at the time, but you might have started the last. We played Florida. We played
Texas Tech.
And you were talking on the bench, and you did it. You started stopping. You came off a curl, and you made your patented jumper. And I've never seen anybody. You still do it in the TBT when I watch it. Everybody laughs because you're like a legend. Like everybody loves Eric Devendorf. But you had your left, your game the basket. Like you could literally put 10 people on the court and they could say you're going to stop you and they still couldn't keep you from hopping here, getting here, and then getting to your left. There's nobody like a massive bucket getter. And most importantly with you is to see your development after playing and seeing you as a coach and seeing what you give back to the community. To see that growth of people think in basketball because it's so about you, or looking at him, or he gets buckets or this and that. But your heart for helping others is incredible. Seeing you as a dad is incredible. Those are the thing I think as coaches, when you get done, is watching your guys grow as men. And so, seeing Paul Harris, what he's doing as a parent, and seeing that, and seeing what you're doing, seeing what Deion's doing. We're talking during the finals, with his family and his kids, and seeing him embrace being an incredible father. And then not only that, but giving back to the community. That's what it's all about, brother. That's why I'm so proud of you.
Well, give yourself a pat on the back because, you had a big time influence. Just remember when me coming back on staff, just coming into the office, talking to you about, doesn't even have to be about basketball, just to be about life stuff, how to deal with, everyday life stuff. And, you had a huge influence on me to, to be able to do what I'm doing,
Appreciate it, my man.
I appreciate you. So in your mind, greatest basketball player of all time?
All time at Syracuse?
All time, period.
Oh my God!
Come on, man.
It's Michael Jordan for sure.
Okay, that's all I want to hear.
But I will tell you, there's only one other guy that can maybe do it. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and people don't give him enough credit. He was.
I tell you
what. Send you a picture, huh?
People are hating on your head right now, huh? You didn't even say.
MJ, not even close. They can say whatever they want. It's during when I watched and when my eyes were really good. That's who I saw.
Yeah.
But the captain was, he was good.
So no LeBron James. He's third.
No, he's right there too. But MJ, I can't even. And then they had to show that documentary at the end, and it closed all doors for me.
Come on, man. MJ, come on. I'm on board with MJ.
Closed all doors for me.
Dinosaur Barbecue or Prime Steakhouse?
Ooh. Danny Clam's the man, so I don't know. You can't go against Danny. My first job in Syracuse was Bill Rapp-Pontiac, and then I had worked for Danny at TGI Fridays. He owned the TGI Fridays at the mall. But Prime Steakhouse, best steaks in town. If I go back, when I go back, like to visit family, I will go right down there. I'll have a nice glass of wine and have a prime steak.
Yes.
But I will tell you, Dinosaur Barbecue, I can't. You're kind of giving me a tough. That's like MJ and that. They can't do that. That's illegal. That's a violation. Technical foul, Devendorf.
All right, I'll let you go on that one. That was good. So look, tell me this. I read about you hanging out with Meek Mill.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
You read about it?
I read it. I saw it because I did my research before this. Huh?
Okay, so this is the deal. So we were recruiting in Philadelphia, and we had to get a Midnight Madness singer, performer. Dion Waiters, when he was at Life Center, was struggling academically. Mm-hmm. It was his senior season. We're trying to make sure that he's doing the right thing. I call his coach, who's now his really close friend, Wilson Arroyo, and he says, Hop, he's on the Zoom not Zoom, but on a phone call every night, like on FaceTime or whatever, until 2 a.m. with this rapper named Meek Mill. I'm like, Meek Mill? Who the hell is Meek Mill? And I remember talking to Dion, like, he's going nowhere. You've got your whole life to live. And this guy, he left to go do a video. Ask Dion. That's a true story. I went down there one day on recruiting, and I told him, like, well, you can't live your life like this. You're trying to hang out with these guys. And so we get to Dion is one of his best friends. And so we do the Midnight Madness. He's going into his sophomore year. Scoop and Rick are seniors or whatever they are, junior, whatever they are. I don't even know at the time. But a friend of mine, Aaron Abbott, says, come on, let's go down, and we're going to go down to Batcave Studios in Philadelphia. So we go in 10:30 at night. We go into the studio. He knows his manager. He comes out. He's recording. He was doing the I'm a Boss remix. Okay. And he came out, and we had met, and he just shaved off his braids and put him on the phone with my son, and he came up and did his 3 or 4 songs, and just you know, I'll always remember when he sang Dream Chasers at the end, because that was when Dion would work out in the morning at 5:30 in the morning. He had that song on a loop before anybody even knew it existed. The only thing I got to diss Dion on is on one of the songs on that Dream Chaser album. He would say, they say the early bird gets the worm, and Dion would say, yo, Hop, man, the early worm gets the bird. I said, no, Dion, the early bird gets the worm. And he'd be like, what did he say? The early worm gets the bird. I said, no, Dion, it's the early bird gets the worm, not the other way around.
Right. Hop, you're a legend in the streets too, man. Come on, man.
Legend of my own mind.
All right, last question for you. What are your expectations this year for the team? Is there any surprises, any guys that we should look out for?
Well, obviously Quade Green was at a 5-player out of all Power 5 conferences last year. There wasn't one player that shot over 50% from the field, over 40 from the 3-point line, and 80% from the foul line. When Quade got academically suspended, he was shooting over 52% from the field, 49 from the 3-point line, and 85 from the foul line. So there was one. And so in this day and age, having great guards is huge. We know we have him. We've got some really good players that got a lot of experience last year that are, we're going to be exciting to play. I think with COVID, just being able to have a schedule and getting through, a season and having some games is going to be a great thing. But I'm optimistic. I think we'll overachieve, and just excited that we have the opportunity to play in such a tough time.
Absolutely. My man Hop, I appreciate you, man.
Can I show you one thing real quick? Can I show you the greatest? Hang on.
Absolutely.
All right.
Oh yeah, no question. That's man. If you didn't know Pearl, you were missing out, man.
So he was the one. How I fell in love with Syracuse. He was talk about worldly, electric. He was an icon, and like you and like we were talking about Johnny and Paul and Dion, like just great people. And Pearl was one of those guys you looked up to, but he did so much for the community and so much to help people. And that smile, that game, incredible.
Incredible person, even a better person. And it's hard to get better than he was at basketball, but he unbelievable dude. Like, I mean, I felt like I've known him his whole life. That's how he treated you,
It's special. And so anyway, E, I'm glad that you invited me tonight, man. I'm really proud of you, what you're doing. And I'll always be there for you, buddy. I like what you're doing with this field of 68. You just keep doing your thing. And keep coaching. Do not get out of coaching, because you're a boss. You're a beast.
I appreciate you, Hop. It's all love all the time. I appreciate you, man. Definitely. That's a wrap, everyone. I appreciate you guys tuning in to episode 2 with Coach Hopkins. If you guys missed our first episode, it was with Coach Boeheim. Make sure you guys subscribe anywhere you can get podcasts at. We're going to be doing this once a week, talking with all the Syracuse legends. Make sure you guys tune in. Talk soon.